Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. Today we're going to talk about SARMS versus steroids. I've been getting asked about this for several months now, so I wanted to make sure that I got this one up there for you. But before we get into that, I have to reiterate, I'm not a doctor. Anything I say in these videos is for your entertainment purposes only. What you do with this information is completely up to you, and I am not advising, condoning any of the above for you to use any of the products that we discuss whatsoever. So let's get into it. Now, SARMS versus steroids. Now, I want to make this perfectly clear before we even press into this topic. In no way, shape, or form, in all of this video, no matter what I say, am I indicating nor, trying to convey that SARMs are stronger than steroids? They're not. They're simply not. I'm going to make comparisons on why certain compounds may be better for certain people, etc., but in no way am I implying that SARMs are stronger on the surface than steroids. So, having said that, let's get into that. With SARMs, as opposed to steroids, you have an alternative, okay? Now, with this alternative, there's several positives and there could be some negatives, and we're going to touch on all of those. The first thing that most people will look at when, we're comparing the two is the gains that you're going to make. Now, I want to explain something to you. I say that steroids are stronger because they are. And on the surface, initially, you will get more out of them more quickly. You will notice that. It doesn't take a real rocket scientist or brain surgeon to come up with that conclusion or figure that out. But what comes into question is the keepability, okay, the long-term fallout. So, when you use steroids, clearly they're going to put a lot more strain on your body, all right? Generally speaking, 97-98% of the time, the stronger something is, the more side effects it's going to have. I think we all have come to that conclusion. And when you're looking at steroids, you take an Anavar, which is considered more mild. You put it up against a D-ball, a Deca. These are stronger. You're going to get bigger results. But that doesn't ultimately mean better. Now, let me explain. The more side effects you have, the harder the recovery. The harder recovery, the stronger chance of less keepability in terms of the gains that you make. Not to mention, you can use SARMs more often during a calendar year than you could with steroids, because when you use steroids, for example, let's say you run a 12-week cycle, you got a 4-week PCT, you got that 2-week gap for esters to clear, you're at 18 weeks. 18 weeks on equals 18 weeks off. If you run a 12-week stack of SARMs, you run a 4-week mini PCT, you only need about 4-5 weeks off, and you could really generally start again. Now, let me also make something clear. When I speak about SARMs, I'm not including S23 into this because S23 may as well be a steroid. I don't know why it's considered a SARM. It's on par with steroids in terms of what you can get out of it, but also on the side effects. I mean, it's deemed a male contraceptive. So I am not speaking about S23 because I guarantee I'm going to get well, what about S23? Well, I just cleared that up. We're not speaking about S23 because, like I said, to me, it's not even technically a SARM. Now, when you have, that time period in between cycles when it comes to steroids, yes, you can run a SARMs bridge in between, but generally speaking, the recovery time is so much more drastic, and you're really essentially waiting a very long time to get back on cycle. When you only have to be off 4 or 5 weeks with SARMs and you can hop back on, clearly, there's less recovery time, there's going to be less side effects, and being that the gains aren't as drastic, keepability's going to be a lot more likely. Now, keepability depends on so many things. I'm not a psychic. I don't know what you're going to keep from what, etc. Everybody's different. Everybody's different on how they diet, how they PCT, how they continue to train when they're off cycle. There are so many underlying factors. So please don't ask me how many gains will I keep, because I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody can tell you that. Nobody knows exactly what you'll gain either. What I do know is this, is that both of these sides, SARMs and steroids, are performance-enhancing drugs, meaning they're going to enhance your performance, meaning they can enhance your physiques, etc. Now, another great thing about SARMs is generally speaking, unless you're running an oral-only steroid cycle, you don't have to inject. And some people are scared of needles, and people make these claims that other people, oh, you're weak, da 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 da. Look, needles aren't for everybody, okay? They're just not. So don't say that to other people. That's not right. But more so than that, some people, have families, have kids, things around. They don't, or their spouses don't want them doing that, etc. There's so many underlying factors. So that eliminates that need, okay? And it gives people an alternative. That's why SARMs are there as an alternative, not a replacement, so to speak, because let's face it, on the surface, how are you going to really replace steroids with those kind of gains? All right. Now, steroids have been around longer than SARMs. Some SARMs have studies dating back to the 90s, your MK677, your MK2866, but steroids, for many, there's more study, more long-term study. So in that regard, people will say they're more comfortable on the steroid side. And that's a fair point. The people have been using SARMs for many years, and we've seen the certain side effects. One of the problems that I see with SARMs, and you can get fake steroids, okay, but when you get fake steroids, it's generally like you're buying Primabol and you're getting EQ, you're buying Anavar, and I've seen people substitute it with D-ball. You're still getting a steroid. A lot of times people are selling SARMs, but they're not actually selling you SARMs. They're selling you pro-hormones, etc. So you're getting into something that you're not really prepared for, and you're getting, people will report strange side effects. Look, real SARMs don't have these steroid-like side effects. That's one of the main draws to them, is their steroid-like results without the side effects, not meaning the same results. So if you're getting terrible toxicity, terrible suppression, estrogen conversion, your chances are extremely high. If you do have SARMs, they're not pure SARMs, and they're cut with pro-hormones or etc. And look, a lot of times the people selling these don't even know what they're selling you. This is what they're getting sent to them. So you can't really blame them either. They're not doing it on purpose. Now, there are some people that are just wretched that do that on purpose, and there's some that don't. I've seen it before with people that I know that are respectable people that have gotten basically screwed over on what they bought. I actually know somebody that ordered MK2866 powder and was sent Superdrol, of all things. And I've seen tons of things. I've also seen people that try to plug clenbuterol in as GW501516 to try to get you that weight loss, and quickly you can tell you're getting the weirdest, oddest side effects that you should never be getting. And that's another thing that could be a negative against SARMs, is they're more often faked. But when it comes on the surface, if you want to lessen your side effects, okay, if you want more keepable gains, things of that nature, then, SARMs are the better option for you. If you're one of those, I want the gains now, I want the biggest gains possible, I don't care about the side effects, I don't care about the chances of less keepability, etc., steroids are for you. That's why we have options in life, okay? That's why there's different cars to buy, there's different computers, different cell phones. We have options, okay? And just because you like something or I like something doesn't mean it's right or wrong for the next person and the next person and the next person. So we need to respect people's opinions and their wants and their needs. The fact is that both of these work, okay? Some to a higher extent than others, but for some people, SARMs give them everything they want. Look, not every single person that uses a PED wants to blow up to 500 pounds. That doesn't even make sense. Then why is there a Winstrol? Why is there a Primabol? Why is there an Anavar? Why is there a Masteron? I mean, half the compounds that you run are cutting compounds. So it doesn't even make sense, because I see these comments sometimes from these meatheads towards others, and it's just not right. And vice versa. Not every single person wants to just shred up and cut up. Some people like to bulk and whatever. So the people that are cutting, you respect the people that are trying to bulking. We're all trying to do the same thing, and what that is improve our physiques one way or another to what we as individuals want. So just because you want something or I want something doesn't mean the next person wants that either. That's why we have options and alternatives, and everybody should respect that and realize we're all in this together, and that we want to improve our bodies for whatever the purpose is that we want. So that's why we have the options, and that's why, SARMs, steroids, there's also peptides, HGH, there's other things out there as well. But I wanted to give the SARMs and steroids comparison so people had a greater idea of that. So really, ultimately, it comes down to you, your comfort level, what you really want to get out of this, etc. So, that being said, www.isarms.com/forums. I'm also on the Evolutionary Forum as well as the Elite Fitness Forum. You can email me, Dylan@isarms.com, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That being said, stay tuned for plenty more to come. Dylan Gemelli, signing off.